What happens when the man who signs your paycheck scrubs the floors beside you, and you don't even know it? Brayden Tiller pulled into the back parking lot just after 10:45 p.m., his breath fogging in the cold night air. He wore a faded navy hoodie, steel-toe work boots, and a pair of thick-rimmed glasses that weren't prescription. His beard was longer than usual, and a ball cap kept his hair tucked away. He looked nothing like the man who had bought the 6-location warehouse supply chain 5 years earlier and turned it profitable. He was going in as Derek, a new overnight temp at Store 4, a warehouse-style supply store in a small industrial suburb. It was the only location he hadn't visited in person since buying the chain. The other 5 stores had shown modest growth, but this one kept reporting high turnover, night shift complaints, and inconsistent inventory reports. The company used a third-party temp agency for night crew assistance, and most of the team hadn't met him in person. The district manager, who oversaw all 6 stores, had only introduced Brayden to the day shift leads when he first took over. So no one would recognize him. Not like this. Inside, the store was dim and quiet. The scent of cardboard and cleaning chemicals hung in the air. A short woman in her late 20s with a high ponytail and a clipboard gave him a quick glance. "You're the new temp?" she asked. "Derek?" "Yeah. First night." "Cool. I'm Rachel Newley, night floor lead. I'll get you clocked in." She didn't smile, but she wasn't rude either. "Just tired." Rachel walked him through the basics. Pallet breakdowns, inventory restock, basic cleaning. She moved fast, talked faster, and barely looked up from her clipboard. Brayden nodded along and kept quiet, observing. There were 6 workers total that night, including himself. By midnight, he'd already seen 2 things that didn't sit right. First, the break room was a mess. Moldy food in the fridge, broken microwave, and a leaking ceiling tile. When he asked about it, Rachel just said, "Been like that for months. We told Mike, but he never sends anyone." Mike was the store's night supervisor. He wasn't on the floor yet, but apparently he always came in late and left early. Second, the crew worked hard, especially a tall guy named Isaiah who hauled pallets like they weighed nothing. Quiet, respectful, but clearly exhausted. At around 1:30 a.m., Mike arrived. He was in his early 40s, wearing flashy sneakers and a Bluetooth headset. He strolled in sipping a smoothie, not acknowledging the crew beyond a lazy yo. Then he disappeared into the manager's office. "Does he do any actual supervising?" Brayden asked Isaiah quietly. Isaiah gave a tired chuckle. "Only when the district guy comes around." Rachel passed by then, muttering under her breath, "Just pray he doesn't come out tonight. He's in one of his moods." Brayden kept working. He helped unload a truck, restocked paint supplies, and swept up broken glass in aisle 12. By 3 a.m., Mike finally reappeared, and that's when everything shifted. He walked straight up to Rachel and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Hey, you need to cut 2 people's hours next week. We're over budget." Again. Rachel looked stunned. "We're already short, Mike. 2 of the new hires just quit. We've been covering double shifts." "Not my problem," Mike said, sipping his smoothie again. "Pick 2. Or I'll pick for you." Brayden froze, watching her face. Rachel looked down, jaw clenched. "These people are already barely getting by." Mike shrugged. "Then maybe they should work faster. You want to keep your lead position, you'll figure it out." Brayden's chest tightened. No discussion. No empathy. Just threats. Rachel walked away without another word, heading toward the back aisle. Brayden followed a few minutes later, pretending to be grabbing supplies. He found her staring at the clipboard, unmoving. "You okay?" he asked carefully. She looked up, startled. "You heard that?" "Yeah." She sighed, voice low. "I hate this. Everyone here works so hard. Isaiah's got a kid. Tasha's taking care of her mom. I don't want to cut anyone's hours. But Mike, he'll do it anyway, and he'll punish me just to prove a point." Brayden looked at her, really looked. She wasn't just tired, she was burned out, and still trying to protect the people under her. He made a decision right then. He was staying the rest of the week. No one knew who he was, and that gave him something rare, honest access. He needed to see more. Maybe Mike was under pressure too. Maybe there was more behind the cuts. But the way he handled it? That wasn't leadership. That was control. Brayden went back to work pretending to be just another temp. But inside he was taking notes. Watching. Listening. And waiting. The next night started colder. Brayden arrived just past 10:30, a few minutes before the shift lead. He waited near the loading area, hands deep in his hoodie pocket, watching his breath curl into the dark. No one said much as they trickled in. Everyone looked more worn than they had 24 hours before. Rachel walked in last, her hair pulled low in a bun this time, a clipboard under one arm and a thermos in hand. She gave a small nod toward Brayden. "You're early. That's rare around here." He shrugged. "Figured I'd get a head start." She didn't respond right away, just unlocked the side employee door and ushered the crew in. Once inside, she handed out assignments without waiting for questions. Her voice was flat, her eyes a little duller. No one asked about the hour cuts. But Brayden noticed Isaiah glance toward her once, like he was waiting for a signal. Mike didn't show up during the first 2 hours. Again, Brayden was assigned to aisle 17, plumbing and HVAC stock. He worked beside a guy named Luis, maybe in his early 30s, who moved methodically, barely speaking except to point out where certain fittings went. "You been here long?" Brayden asked while they unwrapped a new pallet. Luis didn't look up. 6 months. Mostly nights. He didn't elaborate. Brayden kept working, but after a while, he tried again. "You like it?" Luis paused, then pulled out a box cutter. "I like the work. I don't like being treated like I don't matter." Brayden looked over. "You mean the management?" "I mean Mike," Luis said. "He doesn't talk to people. He talks at them. And if you say the wrong thing, you get your hours cut or stuck cleaning bathrooms for 2 weeks. Brayden raised an eyebrow. "That happened to you?" Luis gave a short, humorless laugh. "Happened to Tasha. She's been stuck on bathroom duty 3 weeks straight. For asking for gloves." That caught Brayden's attention. Tasha was a short, middle-aged woman with arthritis in her hands. He'd noticed her limping slightly the night before. She hadn't complained once. He found her near the janitor's closet an hour later, hauling a mop bucket that sloshed dangerously close to overflowing. She wore a brace on her left wrist. "You need a hand with that?" he asked. She looked up, surprised. "No, I got it." "Appreciate it, though." "You sure?" "Looks heavy." "It is," she said, straightening. "But if I let anyone help, I'll get written up for not finishing my section." Brayden frowned. "That a real rule?" She gave a tired smile. "It is when Mike's running the place." He didn't push further. Instead, he took a mental note and walked back toward aisle 17, passing Rachel, who was in a tense conversation with someone on the phone. "I already told you I can't cut anyone this week. We're 4 behind as it is," she said, voice sharp but low. "No, I'm not arguing. I'm telling you the floor won't be safe if we're down more people. That's not a threat, it's a warning." She hung up, exhaled hard, and pressed her forehead against the wall for a second. Then she straightened and walked off. By the time Mike arrived close to 2 in the morning, the entire store had shifted. The crew was quiet, more so than usual. Brayden was walking back from the loading dock when he spotted Mike heading straight for Rachel, his stride faster than usual. "Who the hell do you think you're talking to like that?" Mike said, voice loud enough to echo against the shelves. Rachel didn't flinch. "I'm talking to the person who refuses to listen when I say we're at risk of a safety violation." Mike stepped in closer. "You want to talk safety? You're half the reason these guys are behind. You baby them. You make excuses. You think you know more than me?" Brayden stopped beside a shelf, pretending to check an inventory label while watching. A few workers nearby froze, unsure whether to step in or move away. Rachel took a breath. "I know what a shift looks like when it's short-staffed. I know Tasha's got arthritis and you've got her scrubbing floors without gloves. I know Isaiah's been working doubles and hasn't had a weekend off in 3 weeks." Mike laughed once, sharp and mean. "Oh, so now you're their lawyer?" Rachel's jaw clenched. "I'm trying to make sure people don't get hurt." "You're not in charge of policy," Mike said. "You're replaceable. Don't forget that." Brayden stepped out from behind the shelf, still in his disguise. "You threatening to fire her because she raised a safety concern?" Mike turned, surprised. "Who the hell are you?" "Temp," Brayden said. "Just didn't like the tone." Mike stared at him, then sneered. "You don't get a say, Temp. Stay in your lane." Brayden held his gaze. "Harassment's not a lane, it's a lawsuit." Mike's face darkened. Clock out and don't come back. Rachel stepped forward. He didn't do anything wrong. He challenged me. That's enough. Brayden didn't move. You sure you want to make that call? I already did. Brayden nodded. All right, let me help you understand something. He reached into his hoodie and pulled out a company badge from his back pocket. The photo was unmistakable. His name was printed clearly beneath. I'm Brayden Tiller. I own this company. Mike's mouth opened, then closed. Twice. The room went quiet. Rachel blinked, her grip tightening on the clipboard. Isaiah, who had just stepped out of a back aisle, froze mid-step. Brayden looked around. I've been here 2 nights. I've seen enough to know this isn't a bad crew. They move fast, they work hard, and they look out for each other. What I haven't seen is leadership. Mike stammered. I didn't. You threatened to fire someone for speaking up about safety. You ignored repeated maintenance requests. You retaliated against employees. You made cuts without cause. And you think that's managing? No one spoke. Brayden turned to Rachel. You're not losing your job. Then back to Mike. You are. Effective immediately. Get your things and leave. Mike didn't move. Brayden pointed toward the office. Now. It took a moment, but eventually Mike walked off. Brayden waited until he was out of sight, then turned to the rest of the crew. I didn't come here to play gotcha. I came because I didn't trust the reports I was getting. And I was right not to. He looked at Tasha. You're not scrubbing anything this week. You're doing stock rotation. With gloves. She blinked, startled. He turned to Isaiah. You've been carrying double shifts without complaint. That ends now. You're getting weekends off for the next month, and I want you to train for Supervisor. Isaiah looked stunned. Me? You've earned it. He faced the crew. I'll be back tomorrow. Not undercover. We're fixing this the right way. Then he looked at Rachel. You've been holding this place together without support. That changes now. I'll meet you an hour before shift tomorrow to talk through repairs, staffing, and whatever else you need. Rachel nodded slowly, her eyes glassy. As he walked back toward the exit, he passed the break room. He paused, looked inside, and made a mental list of everything broken or leaking. That would be fixed before the next shift. Brayden walked out into the cold air, pulling off his cap. The wind hit harder than before, but he didn't mind. He'd seen the truth, and now so had they. The next evening, Brayden arrived just after 10, this time through the front entrance, his ID clipped plainly to his jacket. There was no disguise now. A few employees on the closing shift looked up as he walked in, eyes lingering. No one said anything. He headed straight to the manager's office, a narrow room at the back of the store he hadn't stepped foot in until now. The door creaked slightly as he opened it. Rachel was already inside, standing by the whiteboard with a stack of shift logs in front of her. She turned, startled at first, then straightened. Didn't expect you this early. I figured we'd need the time, Brayden said, closing the door behind him. You've been running this place without a real support system. That ends now. She nodded once, silent. He pulled out the folding chair opposite her and sat. Let's start with staffing. Who's on tonight? She passed over the schedule. 5 of us. Luis, Isaiah, Tasha, me, and a fill-in temp who hasn't worked this location before. No one else available? I tried. 3 left last week. Another called out for a family emergency. Brayden glanced at the log. We'll need to start hiring immediately. But we can't fill slots we can't keep. So before that, what's causing people to quit? Rachel leaned back against the desk. Low hours. No consistency. We're treated like interchangeable parts. One guy left after being told to clean up a chemical spill without gloves. Was that in a report? No. Mike told him if he filed anything, he'd blacklist him from the agency. Brayden's jaw tensed. Did you see it? I was in the next aisle. I heard the whole thing. He stood. There's going to be a written safety protocol posted in every break room by next week. Non-negotiable. She nodded, but her eyes stayed on the logs. People stopped expecting things to change. That's why they don't report. They'll start seeing results. Starting tonight. The door opened behind him. Isaiah stepped in, pausing when he saw Brayden. Sorry, Rachel said to check in before we started. Brayden waved him in. Glad you're here. You up for more responsibility? Isaiah glanced at Rachel, then back. What kind? We need someone to shadow leadership. Not just stock and lift. Floor-level accountability. You've got the respect of the crew. That's rare. Isaiah hesitated. I never managed anyone before. You've been doing it unofficially for weeks. I've seen how people move when you're around. You don't need a title to lead, but I'm giving you one anyway. Rachel stepped forward. He's been holding this team together. If he hadn't stepped in last Tuesday, Luis would have hurt his back trying to finish the dock unload solo. I just didn't want him to get written up, Isaiah said quietly. Brayden folded his arms. That's the exact reason you're right for this. He handed Isaiah a printed outline. It's not a full promotion yet, but it's a step. You'll help Rachel. Not under her, not over her. Side by side. We'll fix this from the ground up. Isaiah nodded, slower this time. I'll do my best. I know you will. By the time the full night crew arrived, the atmosphere felt different. Tasha walked in with a new brace, this one clean and fitted. Brayden had arranged a delivery through company medical supply. She didn't say anything, but when she caught his eye, she gave a small nod. Luis came in last, carrying his thermos and moving stiffly. Brayden motioned him over as Rachel briefed the others. How's your back? Brayden asked. Luis raised an eyebrow. You asking as my boss now? As someone who saw you nearly pull something 2 nights ago. Luis exhaled. It's tight. Has been since the last time we had to unload without a pallet jack. You using the lifting belt? Mike kept the key to the cage. Said it was for priority workers. Brayden didn't respond. He walked to the supply cage, pulled out his keys, and unlocked the padlock. Inside were 3 belts, 2 sets of gloves, and a safety mask still in its packaging. He handed the belt to Luis. Your priority now. Luis took it, eyes narrowing slightly. Is this real? You're actually changing things? I'm not here to make speeches. I'm here to make sure you don't walk out of here injured. Luis looked down at the belt, then nodded once and turned back to the dock. An hour into the shift, the front door opened unexpectedly. The temp from the agency had arrived late. He was in his early 20s, earbuds in, hoodie halfway off his shoulder, chewing gum loudly. Rachel walked over. You're supposed to check in at the office before starting. The temp didn't remove his earbuds. I know what I'm doing. Rachel tried again. We need to log your hours and give you your station. He waved a hand. I'll find it. Brayden stepped in, voice calm but clear. You need to follow protocol. The temp turned, studied Brayden for a second, then scoffed. Another floor lead? Whatever. Isaiah stepped up beside them. You got a problem with listening? The temp looked him up and down, then muttered something under his breath. Brayden caught it. And it wasn't just a mutter, it was racial, cutting, and unmistakable. He didn't hesitate. You're done here, Brayden said. The temp blinked. What? You're off the floor. You don't speak to anyone here like that. Ever. You serious? I just got here. You just disqualified yourself. Walk out now. The temp stared long enough that Rachel reached for her radio. But then he turned and walked toward the exit, muttering again. Brayden waited until the door shut behind him, then turned back to Isaiah. You all right? Isaiah nodded, but his shoulders were tight. That doesn't fly here, Brayden said. Not now. Not ever. Isaiah didn't speak right away. Then, I've heard worse. Just not in front of anyone who did anything about it. You won't have to again. The crew worked until nearly 5, slower than usual due to the empty slot, but more focused. Rachel split the team into 2 groups. Her and Tasha handled the restock while Isaiah and Luis worked the dock. Brayden rotated between them, checking load weights, fixing a misaligned shelf in aisle 21, and updating the outdated signage in the electrical section. At one point, Tasha sat down for 5 minutes near the mop sink, rubbing her wrist. Rachel approached. You need another rotation? No. Just a pause. Rachel didn't press, just sat beside her. We'll get more help soon. Tasha glanced toward the open floor. It feels different already. Like someone's actually watching. Someone is. At 6, Brayden gathered the remaining crew before they clocked out. Hiring starts this week. We'll rebuild the team, but we're doing it with input from the people who've kept this place afloat. That means you. Luis leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You really think corporate's gonna go for that? I am corporate, Brayden said. And I'm not asking for permission. Rachel looked around at the group. We've got a long way to go. But this is the first time I've seen people stand up for each other and not get punished for it. Brayden checked his watch. Go home. Rest. We'll keep building from here. They dispersed slowly, quieter than usual, but not drained. Just tired. The kind of tired that came from finally being heard. As Brayden walked out into the early morning chill, the first streaks of light breaking the horizon, he knew the changes weren't just about hiring or repairs. They were about restoring trust one shift at a time. The following Wednesday, as the first heat wave of the season rolled in, Brayden leaned against the open dock bay door, clipboard in hand. Inside, an industrial fan buzzed loudly, barely moving the thick air. The breakroom AC repair had been scheduled for Friday, but for now, the crew worked through the heat with bottled water and rolled-up sleeves. Despite the conditions, something had shifted. Not in speed, no one was rushing, but in posture. People moved with purpose instead of defeat. Rachel stepped out of the narrow hallway connecting the manager's office and storeroom, wiping her forehead with the back of her wrist. We've got the new hire from the agency in aisle 4. Young guy, name's Devin. Seems quiet, but he showed up early and brought his own gloves. Brayden nodded. Let's keep him on light stock for now. Let him get a feel for the pace. She passed him a short stack of printed applications. 3 walk-ins, dropped these off today. First time that's happened in months. He flipped through them. One had warehouse experience, another listed forklift certification. We'll schedule interviews for Friday. You and Isaiah sit in with me. Rachel raised an eyebrow. You want us in on hiring? I want people who understand the floor involved in choosing who walks it. She didn't respond, but there was something in her eyes, not surprise, not gratitude. Just a quiet acceptance that maybe this was how things should have worked all along. Brayden made his way over to the receiving area, where Isaiah was unloading a shipment of PVC pipe with Devin. The new temp moved cautiously, setting each bundle down with care, while Isaiah kept the pace steady without rushing him. Brayden waited until they finished the pallet before speaking. How's he doing? Isaiah glanced at Devin, who had stepped away to grab a water bottle. He listens. Doesn't try and prove anything. That's rare. He's got 2 nights. If he stays consistent, we'll offer him a longer assignment. Isaiah rested one hand on the side of the steel cart. You really planning to stay involved once this place stabilizes? I didn't come down here to do a quick cleanup, Brayden said. I came to see what wasn't working. Now I know. Isaiah nodded but didn't say anything else. Brayden saw him glance toward the office where Rachel was on the phone again. Not a frantic call, just steady, measured words. She was coordinating a repair crew for the ceiling leak in the mop closet. An hour later, Brayden walked the floor solo, checking shelf labels and noting missing signage. As he passed aisle 9, he heard voices. Not arguing, something else. Tasha was speaking to Devin, who had placed a box of brass fittings on the wrong shelf. Not there, she said. That's for 1/2 inch. You've got 3/4. Look at the label color, not just the number. They match. Devin stepped back, clearly embarrassed. Sorry. Wasn't paying close enough attention. Nothing to be sorry for, she said. Just fix it. Better to catch it now than have a contractor yell about it tomorrow. Brayden kept walking, listening without interfering. Near the front of the store, Luis was sorting a cart of returned items. He looked up as Brayden approached. We're short a bin for electrical returns. One of them cracked last night. I'll have a new one sent from store 2, Brayden said. Any other supplies you're down? Luis thought for a second. We could use a second broom. The one we've got's half bristle. Write it down. I'll approve it. As Brayden turned to leave, Luis added, half the reason things went bad before is no one acted when stuff broke. We'd fill out forms and they'd just vanish. That's not happening anymore. Luis gave a short nod and kept moving. Just after 2, Brayden returned to the office and found Rachel and Isaiah reviewing the shift log together. There were 2 flagged notes from the previous night, a jammed bay door on the west dock and a mis-scanned shipment from a supplier that had shorted them 10 units. Brayden scanned the report, then looked up. Why wasn't the supplier error called out immediately? Rachel exhaled. Mike used to tell us not to report small shortages. Said it made us look like we were trying to blame vendors. Going forward, every shortage gets logged. We don't eat costs to protect optics. Isaiah added. Devin caught it. He was double-checking the manifest. Good, Brayden said. That's exactly what we need more of. The 3 of them reviewed the rest of the logs, then made their way back to the floor. The fan near the loading dock had blown a breaker and the air had grown heavier. Brayden helped Isaiah reset the circuit panel near the back wall, then checked in on Tasha, who was wiping down the utility sink. You need a break? He asked. She shook her head. I'm slow tonight. If I sit down now, I won't want to get back up. Just pace yourself. We're not behind. She waved him off but smiled slightly as she continued wiping. Around 4, Devin approached Brayden near the front shelving area. He looked hesitant but not unsure. Can I ask something? Of course. Why'd you come down here yourself? Most owners don't. Brayden set down the box he was holding. Because I realized the numbers I was getting didn't tell me the truth. And that truth was costing good people more than I was willing to accept. Devin nodded. I've worked 3 warehouses. Never seen someone that high up show their face. You shouldn't have to. But I messed that up. So now I'm here. Devin didn't respond, just returned to sorting hardware. Brayden watched him for a moment, then moved on. At 5:15, the crew gathered near the break room for end-of-shift debrief. Rachel went over the remaining tasks for the next team, then looked up at Brayden. We're stabilizing. Slowly. But it's happening. He nodded. We'll keep at it. Consistency is the only way this sticks. Isaiah added. Morale's better. Even with the heat. People aren't walking on eggshells anymore. Brayden looked around the group. You all stuck it out through things that should have driven you away. You didn't just survive, you held this place together. That's not invisible anymore. Tasha sat on a nearby stool, stretching her leg. Feels strange being noticed. You earned it, Brayden said. And that means we build forward with you, not over you. He turned to Rachel. Starting next week, your title changes. You're not just shift lead. You're store operations lead. Full authority on staffing decisions, scheduling, and safety compliance. You'll report directly to me until I hire a new district manager. Rachel didn't speak right away. Then, I need a budget if I'm going to do this right. You'll have one by Friday. Isaiah leaned against the doorframe. And what about you? You staying hands-on? Brayden looked around the room. I'll be here 2 nights a week for the next 2 months. After that, I'll rotate through all 6 locations. But this one gets priority until every piece is solid. Luis raised an eyebrow. You're trusting us with more than we've had in years. I'm trusting you because you've already earned it. You just haven't been given the tools to show it. The group broke apart slowly, heading toward the back to clock out. No one rushed. No one lingered. They moved like people who finally knew where they stood. Brayden waited until the last of them filed out, then stepped into the empty break room. The fridge had been scrubbed, the microwave replaced. A fresh stack of safety forms sat in a tray beside the bulletin board. He picked one up, scanned the checklist, and set it down. Outside, the sun cracked the horizon, spilling light across the parking lot. Rachel stood near her car, sipping from a dented thermos. Brayden walked up beside her. You ever consider running a district? She didn't look over. I haven't even settled into this role yet. Think about it. She finally turned. You offering me something or just planting seeds? Both. He nodded once, then walked toward his truck. The lot was still quiet, the world just waking up. But inside that store, something had already changed. Not a miracle. Not a rescue. Just leadership finally showing up where it belonged.